All right, Tiffany, now you've gone over what a swatch is, why we need to make it, but how? How do I make a swatch? What do I need to take into consideration? What do I need to follow? Is there anything specific that I need to know? That's what I'm going over in this video. Welcome to video 3 of my swatch series. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a swatch. That way you can make sure you take everything into consideration and have the best experience possible when it comes to swatch making. Now, there's a couple different things I want to address in this video. And the first is I'm going to show you how to make just a regular generic swatch depending on if the stitches that you're working with have a 1-to-1 stitch ratio, and you just need to more so focus on the dimensions and the measurement than the stitch itself. And then I want to show you what to do if your stitch that you want to work up does have a multiple stitch count requirement that you do need to take into consideration. So let's go ahead and begin with just a regular swatch. Maybe you're working, let's say, half double crochets. Okay, so everything is half double crochet, and you just need to know if your stitches are the right size. So we are going to go ahead and create our slip knot and attach our crochet hook. Great. And when it comes to swatches, if it is just a matter of 1-to-1 stitch ratio and we are working up more towards, making sure we hit dimension, I'm going to grab my ruler or measuring device. And I'm going to chain, because this doesn't have a multiple stitch count requirement, I'm going to chain until I have reached the 4-inch multiple stitch count requirement. Now, if you work in centimeters, please feel free to make adjustments to whatever size, or just take what I'm doing and make it your own. Maybe you only want to work up to 3 inches, or maybe you want to work up, centimeters right here. So 4 centimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4 is roughly 10 centimeters. So 4 inches is roughly 10 centimeters. Okay, or whatever increment you want to do. So chain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm going to check. And when I check, I don't want to stretch too much. So here I've hit 3 inches with 10 chains. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16, and I've gone way past 4 inches. So let me back it up. 2, take 2 out. Do I line up with 4 inches now? And yes, so that right there lines up with 4 inches, where that last chain is right there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 chains that met 4 inches. So I'm going to write that down. Come over to my piece of paper, and so that's something different. So I'm going to say that 4 inches was 14 chains. Okay, move that off to the side. Okay, now I'm working half double crochet stitches. So taking into consideration my turning chain, I only need to chain 1 for half double crochets. So I will chain 1, and that is my turning chain. And then skipping that first chain I just made, working a half double crochet stitch in the second chain, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and just make 1 half double crochet stitch in every chain across, because maybe that's the pattern I'm working. I'm just working half double crochets for the pattern. All right, last chain here. Making my last half double crochet. Great. Okay, now bring your measuring tool out, re-measure, and I am still showing right at that 4-inch mark right there, which is great. Okay, that means I'm staying on track. Sometimes, depending on the yarn, depending on the stitches, that the stitch will spread the chains out more, or maybe even shrink the chains. So checking after your first row to make sure that you're staying on track dimensionally is super important. Great. And then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, turn my work following the pattern of the half double crochet stitch and making 1 half double crochet stitch in every chain. Now that we know we have met that 4-inch measurement width-wise, we now want to work as many rows as we need to and check to make sure we can reach 4 inches lengthwise also. So take a second and work up a few rows and check, and then work up a few rows and check, and stop when your work has reached 4 inches. Okay, just finished a row, checking right here, and I show 4 inches right there. Great. Okay, so now I know I've met dimension widthwise 4 inches and lengthwise 4 inches. What I will do next is I will take my scissors, I will cut a long enough tail for that to be woven in. So I take into consideration in the project that I am making either joining yarn to the project, whatever amount of yarn I'm going to need to join the yarn, more yarn to the project, or having to cut off so that way I can complete the project and weave in the end. Okay, so here is what I got. Now what do I do with this? Grab your ruler, come to the work here, and we're going to go widthwise. I'm going to line up. You can choose if you go ahead and work the whole thing, or if you want to just do the inner body. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inner body. I'm going to line up with a stitch space. So I see this half double crochet stitch right here. I'm going to line my ruler up with that stitch right there. And I'm going to find out how many stitches are in 2 inches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to write that down. 2 inches equals 7 stitches. Great. Now I'm going to go up and down lengthwise. I'm going to line my ruler with a row. So finding a stitch, line with the bottom of that stitch. Great. 2 inches. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rows. So 2 inches equals 5 rows. This is great. Okay. Now the other thing that you can do, which is super cool, is you're going to find out how much yarn you used in the space. So let me double check just to make sure I am on track. Now when I measure out my work, it's more of a 4.5 inch width. 4.5 inches. So that's important to know. So I'm going to write that down. Swatch equals 4.5 inches. Now the thing is before up here I wrote 4 inches equals 12 chains. I didn't add any chains. I just continued to work more rows off of that row 1 that showed 4 inches. So I didn't add any more chains, but now my work is measuring 4.5 inches. So I'm going to change that. 4.5 inches is 14 chains. Okay, important to note that. And then come for the widthwise, and I show 4 inches long. So that is still, so by 4 inches long, so wide. Okay, 4.5 inches wide, 4 inches long. This is important to know. Okay, take away my ruler, and now grab your measuring tape. Okay, so measuring tape, I need something longer because the ruler would work, but this is better. So I'm going to elongate it to its max length here. And then what I'm going to do is, because I cut the yarn, and this is important to cut, like make a swatch. Make a swatch. Take your work and undo it. And as you're undoing it, measure it. So line up the tail with the 0 and measure. Now this is going to be in inches or centimeters, depending on what you're measuring. Stop at the 60 inches, and I'm going to say 1. And line where that stopped up with 0. I hit 60 inches again, so that's 2. 2 times I've hit 60 inches. Feel like the count off Sesame Street. 2, 2, ha ha ha. And then 3. Okay, so 8 times I've hit 60 inches, and I'm going to pause here for a second because I want to show you something. I do not want to include the foundation row in my measurement here. That's important because I'm not repeating the amount of yarn in my foundation row over and over and over again throughout the project. That there's only one row of foundation row, okay? So I'm going to stop. I'm going to undo this right up to that last stitch there. So I have 8 times I've hit 60. I'm going to slowly bring this out and undo it. There we go. Okay, foundation row chain right there. Okay, so that is, we're going to say 36. We're just going to round to it. Okay, so come to your paper. 8 times 60, because I hit that 60 inches 8 times, plus 36. That's where I stopped. 36 inches. Okay, and that will tell me how much yarn was in the whole swatch. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure the foundation row. So right there, put that with 0. And then I'm going to undo the rest of the swatch. That's why it's so important for it to be a small swatch. Because if we were to do this with a large project, this would be so much. It would be so much. So the foundation row that we made, we don't want to stretch it too much. We're going to say 23 inches. So foundation row, 23 inches. Okay. Now, let's find out how many yards we used. Okay, so here's the cool part. 60 times 8. 60 times 8 equals 480 inches plus 36 equals, there we go. So plus 36 equals 516 inches. That's how much yarn was inside the swatch. So 516 inches, but we don't want inches, we want yards. So let's convert 516 inches to yards. So I'm going to say equals, there are 12 inches in 1 foot, and there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So I'm going to take 516 inches, I'm going to divide by 12 inches, and that's 43. And then 43 divided by 3, that gives me 14.333333. So 14.33 yards of yarn. We're in that swatch. Now, if I want to add the foundation row at the very end of the project, the foundation row for 4.5 inches gave me 23 inches of yarn, or 23 inches divided by feet, 12 inches, and then yard, 3 feet. So 23 divided by 12 is 1.92 feet. 1.92 feet divided by 3 gives me 0.64 yards of yarn. We're in 4.5 inches of foundation row chain. We have all of this lovely information. Now we have something to work with when wanting to figure out how much yarn that we will need for the project. All right, I'm going to show you all of that in the next video. Right now, you have just figured out with the swatch, we figured out that every 2 inches, we have 7 stitches. Every 2 inches, we have 5 rows. And every 4.5 inches wide by 4 inches long square, we have 14.33 yards of yarn. And the foundation row is 0.64 yards of yarn as well. So we know all this information. Awesome. Now let's work up what happens if we are working a pattern that has a multiple stitch count requirement. Okay, so I am going to do the closed scallop stitch to show you because that's a very dense pattern and it's a pattern that you can't just figure out with a measuring tool. You can't just figure out 4 inches how many stitches are there. It doesn't work that way. So the closed scallop stitch is worked in a multiple of 6 plus 1. Let me double check that just to make sure you get multiple of 6 plus 1. So I'm going to work up, I'm going to be very careful in how many multiples of 6. I'm going to be very aware of how many multiples of 6 I'm working. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 multiple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 2 multiples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 3 multiples. That should give me a very good idea of the pattern. And then plus 1. Multiple of 3 plus 1. So I just chained 19 stitches or 3 multiples. Okay, all something I want to make sure I write down. Okay, now I'm going to work up the pattern here where I'm going to make 2 double crochet stitches in the 4th chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now look what I just did. I just cut into my work multiple stitches. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look where that first stitch is. That skipped 3 chains does count as our first stitch. But when it comes to how many chains are now going to be in that foundation row, how many stitches are in that foundation row, it's already changed. It's already different. Okay, so be aware of that. Skip 2, 1, 2, single crochet. Skip 2, 1, 2, 4 double crochets in the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 2, single crochet, skip 2, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 2, single crochet in the last chain. Great, so that is 1 row. Now we're going to move on to row 2. We repeat row 2 for those of you who don't know this pattern. Chain 3, turning our work, making 2 double crochet stitches in that first single crochet stitch, and then moving on, making a single crochet between double crochet 2 and 3. Okay, I do have a video showing how to do this pattern. I'll put a card up in the top here if you would like to really learn this pattern. It's the closed scallop crochet stitch, but that's not what this video is about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work up enough rows to get to, because I can figure out as close as possible to that 4-inch mark. Okay, I don't want to go before it. I'd like to either hit 4 inches or go beyond 4 inches. Okay, so continue to work as many rows as you need to, and then we'll come back here and we'll figure out what to do with the information. Okay, I managed to finish however many rows that I needed in order to meet my 4-inch dimension here. So now I'm ready to count. How many rows did I need to meet? So how many stitches? So stitches width-wise, I managed to go to 4.5 inches. 5 inches. Okay, I made 19 chains before in my foundation row to meet multiple stitch count requirement. So 4.5 inches, I created 19 chains for that, or 3 multiples was 4.5 inches. I think that's the most important here. 3 multiples of those, multiple of 6 to equal 4.5 inches. And then the number of rows, I have, best way to see this here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows equals, and to be fair, I'm going to say about 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches. So this swatch is more of a 4.5 by 4.5 inch swatch, and that's just because that's how the stitches hit when it came to finishing the stitch, and that's perfectly fine. So then I'm going to go ahead and grab my measuring tape and undo this swatch and find out how much yarn was in this swatch. So I'm going to start by frogging most of it so I can go faster when it comes to measuring it. This is also a really good indicator if your yarn is not easily frogged. Now remember, I don't want the foundation row, so I'm literally going to stop right before I hit the foundation row. I'm leaving 1 stitch in there. Okay, and then opening this all the way up and go. Okay, so 8 plus, oh my gosh, that's gonna hit like almost right at 9, so I'm just gonna say 9. So 9 times 60 inches, because I hit that 60-inch mark 9 times, and then the foundation row, 4.5 inch foundation row is right at 28 inches. 28 inches. Great. Okay, now let's do our conversion. 9 times 60, 540 inches. Now this is super important, and honestly, when it comes to making sure you stay on track, write what this number means right next to it. That way you don't all of a sudden it's like, wait, what does that mean? Where'd that number come from? Okay, and then there is 12 inches in 1 foot, and there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So 540 divided by 12 equals 45. 45 divided by 3 equals 15. So there's 15 yards in this 4.5 by 4.5 inch swatch for this pattern. the 28 inches divided by 12, and then divided by 3. 28 divided by 12 divided by 3 is 0.78 yards, and that was for that 4.5 inch foundation row. Foundation, and again, I'm writing it all out, equals 0.78 yards. So I know what each number means. Okay, so now we have all of this information. We now know how we can take a swatch, the how. We know the how. We know the what is a swatch. We know the why we use a swatch. We know the how to figure out the information from the swatch, how to take the swatch and figure out how many stitches per dimension, how many rows per dimension, and how many yards or amount of yarn per dimension. We now know this. The next thing we're going to go over is how to convert all of this information into an actual pattern. How to take these numbers and get from them what I want. You know, like how I take this information from the pattern, all these stitches, these rows, this amount of yarn, and how to say, well, I want to take that and I want to make an adult size lapgan, or an adult throw, a large throw blanket, or how to make a receiving blanket for a baby. I'm going to show you next, with this next video, how to take these numbers and apply them to a pattern. And honestly, it's that video that's really going to help all of you pattern makers, those people that want to learn how to create patterns. That's going to be a big video for you to figure out how to take these numbers and now convert them to whatever size blanket that you want to make. How to make all of these other sizes, how to figure that out. I'm excited about that video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the information from this video, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe so you don't miss my next video, because that's going to be a big one. It's going to be important. Check out my membership program, guys. You know all the things. Thank you so much for watching this one. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. It's going to be a good one. Bye.